So weekend 2 is here for the Modern Warfare 3 beta, opening up to Xbox and PC, as well as keeping the open status for PlayStation users from this last weekend's event. With today's update for Modern Warfare 3's beta, however, came a handful of changes and some pretty good ones and needed ones if you ask me. So today, we're running down all the changes that you need to know of with the weekend 2 update for the beta. As we go along, drop your thoughts down below. If you enjoy the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 3. We'll keep you in the loop and on top of everything you need to know here with the beta and beyond, gearing up towards launch. I'd love to have you in the community. And two final things of note. First, make sure you check out my friends over at G Fuel for upwards of 30% off your entire order. Now's a great time to grab a restock or try it out for the first time ahead of launch, gearing up for, again, all your energy come grind time with weapon or camo leveling, whatever the case, but more on that a little later. And finally, keep an eye out. We'll have some more beta codes for those who want to jump in on PC and Xbox with today's and tomorrow's crossplay beta early access portion. First come, first serve, unfortunately. Just have a few extra ones that I wanted to get rid of, but want to make sure those get to at least some of you guys. But for now, let's jump into Modern Warfare 3's changes for weekend 2. So content-wise to start here, that's one of the big things in the patch notes they detailed was, of course, we have the new maps of Orlov Military Base, which is actually new for the ground war experience. And then you have the return of High Rise, a map that I'm sure that we've all been anticipating here since the very start of the beta. It's finally available here to play on that. But also you have the new modes of Cutthroat, which is your 3v3v3 elimination round-based mode. First team to get 3-round victories ends up winning the match. But then we end up having Search and Destroy introduced for the beta as well. Something that historically hasn't been in too many betas in the past, but it's definitely a fun one and the community seems to really rally around it whenever it does happen. So nice to see that for those that do love Search and Destroy. Now, in terms of actual gameplay updates and things that changed within the gameplay experience, that's where we can now start to turn to these more individual patch notes. Firstly, one of the big things was the visibility for the user interface. That is something that was detailed as enemy operators will now display a red nameplate above their head. Previously, that was only something that had the red diamond icon above their head to distinguish if it was a friendly or enemy. You had that by default blue/teal diamond above friendlies, but it was something that really that didn't give a whole ton of initial recognition for a player if they were an enemy or a friendly. There are so many clips that not only have I seen, but also had my fair share of actually doing myself, where I immediately go and snap to a player model thinking it's an enemy turning a corner or something, but it's just a teammate. So this is now introduced in a way to hopefully remedy that a little bit. And while at first it is something that does make a world of a difference, and it absolutely is something you could tell a lot easier if it's an enemy or a friendly, it still isn't exactly perfect, as we'll touch on a little later on down the line with overall thoughts. The nameplates can sometimes fade into obscurity depending on the lighting of the background behind it. Like if you're looking towards the sun, a lot of the times you might lose that player card and nameplate, so it still may be pretty tough to track if it is a friendly or an enemy. But I think that could be remedied by like having a stroke on the outline of the nameplate or the name. We'll see, but at least it's a stride in the right direction. Absolutely. Additionally, there was an update to the sliding, in which Sledge ended up saying an update is now live in Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer beta to decrease the slide sprint delay by 200 milliseconds. Give it a try and let us know how it feels. So we didn't know the exact base here off of this, but 200 milliseconds doesn't seem like a whole ton, but in regards to a slide, it absolutely can be. So excited to jump in, try this out and see how it feels. And it seems like by that wording, they're willing to make even more adjustments here to it. So while it is not something that's been entirely removed just yet, in terms of that slide to sprint delay, it seems like it's on the right track. Weaponry, we saw a little bit here in terms of adjustments to tac stance, and also our first weapon nerf of the entire beta and entire Modern Warfare 3 season as a whole. Firstly, we saw the reduction in tac stance spread while sliding for several weapon classes, meaning that it's going to be more accurate, it's going to be a tighter hip fire, so it's going to be a lot closer to like an actual canted laser or something like that. Assault rifles saw a decrease, I'm assuming depending on weapons of the class, in reductions of 17 to 26%, SMGs saw 14 to 17%, light machine guns saw 30 to 45%, marksman rifles saw 29 to 31%, and pistols saw 10 to 20% reductions. So definitely some noticeable changes here in regards to that and making tac stance probably a bit more valid now at this point, but certainly interesting to see for sure. The Striker had a handful of nerfs here because it was absolutely the best gun in the beta. That and the MCW, I think, was up there as well for sure. But the Striker ended up seeing a decrease in the near to medium damage from 39 to 36, a near to medium damage range from 24 to 19 meters, a 21% decrease in that range, a decrease in the medium damage range from 30 meters to 25 meters, a decrease in the far to medium damage from 28 to 27, and a decrease to the minimum damage from 23 to 21, while also increasing headshot damage multipliers from 1.2 to 1.3 and increasing lower arm damage multipliers from 1 to 1.1. So slightly giving some modifier bonus to if you are an accurate shot, but overall the base damage has been reduced by a significant amount. Even though it is something that only is like 2 to 3 damage, depending on the range, depending on where you're at, that does make a substantial difference in terms of how that weapon will feel. But they did clarify that this is something that is still going to remain competitive for the SMG class, absolutely, but it's not going to outperform assault rifles now at this point, which is, I think, the key point here of that. We saw additional adjustments in the way of kill streaks, modes, and maps, where the Guardian had a decrease in its health from 550 to 400, a 27% decrease, and the lifetime of it is now decreased from 2 minutes to 1 minute. So you won't hear that annoying ringing nearly as long as you did beforehand. Ground Warrior saw vehicles driven by the player no longer having limited fuel. Hardpoint, it disabled overhead spawn camera sequences upon respawn, which is definitely nice. Should get you back in the action a little quicker. And then we saw maps have some adjustments where Estate, there was collision near various areas of the waterfall, preventing players from accessing unintended locations. Favela, players can now no longer be killed immediately after respawning near the yellow car on the side street. And Pop Off Power, they fixed some under the map issues where players were glitching under there to get into sort of god spots. So definitely some nice stuff here that helps the fairness of play around all those maps, but things that should be of note as well. And the final things they mentioned were some stability issues where they fixed the overall stability of the builds of the game. You shouldn't see as many crashes now. You shouldn't have as many errors stating that network service has failed for your matches, kicking you out and stuff like that. So definitely, again, some nice changes here. While not necessarily groundbreaking or like a whole seasonal update worth of stuff, for a beta, it's a pretty nice set of patch notes. And that leads into my overall thoughts here about the update. I definitely still think there is work to do. As mentioned, the visibility, the nameplates can sometimes fade into obscurity still based on the lighting. I think a stroke would absolutely help that out, give a bit of tonal depth perhaps, and allow players to have that visibility that depending on whatever background, you're still going to see a name rather than having it fade off. But ultimately, honestly, I think it's great strides in the right direction. Seeing things patched, updated, and all with such swiftness, I know that the beta state affords a bit more sense of urgency, quick response, and attentive nature compared to a launch and a full build when there's a lot more legal red tape to go through an update. But I really do hope that we see some semblance of this still carried on into the full launch of the game. To this day, I still cannot understand why this past year we had so many things that were honestly game-breaking go unmentioned, unpatched for not only just weeks at a time, where we only had things fixed in seasonal updates of the launch and reloaded updates for a season, but also so many things that eluded even just those weeks and months at a time. I mean, UAV pings are broken and gave real-time updates and not sweep specific locations of players for months. Silencers and Ghost didn't hide players on the minimap when a UAV was active. The stim pistol killed players instantly instead of allowing them to go to a down state if they had it in their inventory in Warzone. Loadout drop markers still disappear. Hardcore still does not work properly in private matches, despite being in private matches since season 2. Like, those kind of things. And again, I hate to beat a dead horse, man. I really do, especially because we're now moving on to the next thing. But like, this is going to sound rude, but that's just embarrassing that there's been so many things, both big and small, that persisted and didn't get fixed for so long. I'm not talking about like just, oh, it missed one update, we'll get it in the next seasonal update. Like, there were things in this game with Modern Warfare 2 that did not get fixed for months at a time and still to this day are not fixed. Like, that stuff is just, it can't happen, man. So to have this sense of urgency, this swiftness in fixing some things that the community has made the devs aware of and had their feedback heard on, it's nice, you know? Like, I'm not expecting this to be the absolute perfect game, but if it's even just a step up from this past year, I'll take it. But anyways, that is the update we have for weekend 2 of the beta, and what you should be aware of if you're now jumping in for the first time on Xbox and PC, or maybe continuing on PlayStation. But that said, that is where we're gonna wrap it up. But before we do, make sure you check out my friends over at G Fuel to fuel your grind this COD season. Whether you're grinding weapon levels, camos, content of your own, G Fuel's there to help. To me, G Fuel is like my cup of coffee in the morning. It gets me going, gets that productivity started. And my team Carnage just recently launched our own flavor, Pog Juice, which I may be biased a little bit here, but I do think it's a top 3 flavor of mine. I'm truly happy we're finally able to share this project with the world, because it's been like 2 years in the making at this point. So if you want to check out that flavor or any others, I'd highly recommend Hype Sauce, the Morbius Nectarine flavor, and a few others. But link down below if you guys want to check that out. Code Espresso can get you up to 30% off your entire order. But that, again, is where we're going to wrap the video up. So let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of these updates, these changes to weekend 2 of the beta? Like them, dislike them, whatever the case, feel free to let me know. If you enjoyed the video, you find it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare 3 as we gear up for the full launch here. And of course, we'll have a ton of stuff throughout weekend 2 and beyond gearing up to that, but love to have it in the community. For now though, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.